we ready to meditate with Corey? Are you ready to learn all about dinosaurs and fossils and a very cool story? Make sure that you're all comfortable in bed. Pull the covers up just right. We have a lot to talk about tonight. James was in the 5th grade, and in school he learned all about fossils. Someone came to school to talk to them about fossils and paleontologists and all of that stuff. And he understood a lot of it, but he had so many questions and not enough time at school. So when James got home, he decided to ask his dad all about it. Luckily, his dad was very smart and knew lots of things about lots of different topics. He said, "Let's talk about it at bedtime." And James said, "Okay." So that night, when he went to bed, just like you're doing right now, he said to his dad, "Dad, how do fossils even get created? And even more, what is a fossil?" "Right, well, let me explain," James' dad said. Fossils are basically rock or stone that's millions and millions of years old. So that means it's been on Earth millions and millions of years. And what happens is, when an animal dies, sometimes they die depending on where it is in the earth, and they're frozen solid. And then years and years and years and years and years later, scientists find them and they're in perfect condition, just like how they find mammoths, which is a big, giant, hairy-looking elephant. That's how they discovered mammoths, because some of them were frozen in the ice. But when they're frozen, they are frozen and they look exactly the same when they defrost. Just like when you take peas or something like that out of the freezer. Sometimes, especially insects, fly and they get caught in the sap, which is like a sticky substance on trees. And they can't get out of the sap. And that sap, over time, turns into something called amber. Amber is like a precious stone. And sometimes you can get amber with insects inside that are perfectly preserved. That means they look exactly the same as when they did the day that they died. That's another way that scientists can detect the age of insects or animals from millions and years ago. Another way is fossils, just like you learned about today. But fossils are different. When an animal dies, let's say a dinosaur from millions of years ago, when a dinosaur dies, what happens is other animals come along and clean up the flesh or the bones are left and everything deteriorates on the body. Everything is kind of eaten, which is nature, or it's washed away by the weather and it just deteriorates, like if you left an apple outside. The apple might get eaten by birds or other insects, or it might just slowly start to break down and disintegrate. That's what happens to animals too. So when that happens, it takes time, and sometimes it takes long enough for the animal to start to be covered with soil or mud or dirt. And then over years and years and years, they're covered with even more soil and more mud and more dirt. And years and years and years, hundreds of years, the soil starts to get very heavy and it crushes the soil underneath, turning it into very hard stone. So what happens is the bones of an animal get formed into the stone, into the rock. And then over time, years and years and years and years and years, there's a substance called groundwater. And groundwater is just water that filters through the earth, comes and washes away the bones, which takes a very long time. And in place of the bones, there's just sediment and dirt that form in the shapes of the bones. And that's what makes a fossil. So fossils tell scientists and people like paleontologists, that's a person that studies fossils. It tells them their size. It tells them all about how tall the dinosaurs were, what their teeth looked like, so then they get to know what kind of animals they ate or if they ate plants. You can also get plants that turn into fossils. So then scientists even learn what the dinosaurs ate for their diet. Like we eat certain foods. That's how the scientists know what the dinosaurs ate, because it's all right there in their fossil. Tells you everything. James was just sat soaking in all the information that Dad was sharing. Wow, he said. How cool is that? Did all the dinosaurs get along, Dad? That's more difficult to tell you about, he said, because we get to know all the facts about dinosaurs, but we don't get to really know all about the consciousness of dinosaurs. Consciousness, James said. What does consciousness mean? That's a very long word. Ooh, this one's a difficult one to explain, James. Let me see if I can say it in a very simple way for you. You know, when you're cold and you put on a t-shirt and then you put on a sweater and then maybe you put on a hat or a coat and you have layers and layers of clothes to keep you warm. And James says, yes. Well, imagine that the earth, the big ball that forms the earth, is just like you, and it has layers around it, but we don't see those layers. But it's like the earth is wearing a t-shirt. Can you imagine that? And James said, yes, I think so. Well, Earth's t-shirt that we can't see with our eyes, because it's really just energy. Earth's t-shirt is what we call consciousness. So it's a layer that goes all around the earth. That's consciousness. It's everywhere. And the cool thing about consciousness is, it really is everybody's thinking on the world goes into a big t-shirt, a big layer around the world called collective consciousness. So every time you think, that thought that you just had about dinosaurs goes out there into the universe, into the t-shirt, the layer around the world called consciousness. So everybody on the planet, all the billions and billions of people that are thinking all day long, their thoughts go into the collective consciousness. It's like a big pool of thinking that's a t-shirt, that's a layer around the world. Do you understand that? I think so, James said. Maybe we'll go into consciousness some other time, but for now you can just imagine it as a big bubble around the world that contains everybody's thoughts. And that's called collective consciousness. Now, going back to dinosaurs, if we could go into that bubble of thinking, travel into collective consciousness, and go back in time, maybe we would know if all the dinosaurs got along. Because we would know what the dinosaurs were thinking. Do you understand? And James said, yes, I do. It's like we could time travel back millions and millions and years ago just to understand whether the dinosaurs get along. That's it, James. That's the consciousness. It basically holds all the past thinking, all the present thinking, and even all the future thinking of mankind and animals, everything all over the world. Wow, James said. How cool is that? James' brain was getting kind of tired, and his eyes started to blink slowly, and he started to fall to sleep. His dad gave him a kiss, said goodnight, made sure his nightlight was just right, and he left him to think about dinosaurs. He was thinking about how maybe he would like to be a paleontologist when he grew up. What a cool job that would be, he thought. And he started to drift off to sleep. Before you know it, James was dreaming. He was dreaming that he was floating around in the big bubble of consciousness around the world. That big t-shirt, that layer of consciousness, of thoughts that we don't see, James was flying through it. And he was flying with a purpose. He was on a mission to go back millions and millions and millions of years ago to find out if all dinosaurs got along. Maybe some dinosaurs were friends. He was very intrigued. So in his dreams, he was moving as quick as light, speeding through the years, going back in time, traveling through consciousness, through the big bubble of thinking that surrounds Earth, until, bump, he suddenly stopped. You don't know why he stopped, but he stopped. And he found himself hovering above two very unusual looking dinosaurs. he knew that he was in the right place. He'd managed to travel back millions and millions of years ago. In fact, dinosaurs were on Earth 160 million years. Can you believe that? Human beings, have only been on Earth 200,000 years. So dinosaurs have been around much, much longer than we've been on Earth. He was hovering over two particular dinosaurs. One was a T-Rex, a Tyrannosaurus Rex. The Tyrannosaurus Rex had very big teeth, sharp, pointy-looking teeth. It looked kind of mean and scary, to be honest. This is what James thought. The T-Rex, he knew from class, was the king of all dinosaurs. He was the king of dinosaurs because he was a carnivore. A carnivore means that he ate other dinosaurs. Some dinosaurs were not carnivores and they had very small teeth. They just ate plants. The dinosaur that was with T-Rex was an Apatosaurus. Apatosaurus. That's a hard one to say. Apatosaurus. The Apatosaurus was a very long dinosaur. He was as long, now get this, as a 10-story building. Can you imagine being on the 10th floor in a hotel? That's how tall the Apatosaurus was. But he only ate plants. The T-Rex was very long. He was as long as a school bus. Now that's a long dinosaur, but he wasn't anywhere near as big as the Apatosaurus. But the Apatosaurus only ate plants. He didn't eat other dinosaurs. That's why the T-Rex was known as the king of dinosaurs, because most of the other dinosaurs were in no competition to fight him or defend themselves because he had such scary big teeth and he was a mean dinosaur. Let me tell you a little bit about the consciousness of these two dinosaurs that James was picking up on. He could actually pick up on their thinking. The T-Rex, he found out, was called Rufus. Rufus was not like most T-Rexes. Actually, he wasn't mean at all. And he was getting very tired of everybody running away from him, thinking he was mean, when he wasn't mean at all. He was really quite shy, and he was a nice dinosaur. And he liked plants too. He didn't always have to eat other dinosaurs, even though that's what he was raised to do. The Apatosaurus was called Leonard. This is what James found out just by listening to them talking to each other. Leonard was Rufus's best friend. They'd been best friends for a very long time. The thing is about these two dinosaurs was it was very unusual for those two particular dinosaurs, a plant-eating dinosaur and a meat-eating dinosaur, to be friends. Good friends at that was very, very unusual. James was listening to their thinking. Remember, he was in the bubble of thoughts, the consciousness around the world, and he was listening to their thinking and listening to their friendship, thinking, wow, how cool is that? Dinosaurs can get along. some dinosaurs were actually friends. Wait till I tell my dad. In James's dream, he decided to leave the dinosaurs and fly his way back through consciousness, back through all the thoughts that surround the earth, back into his bed, where he turned over and rolled on his side and started to dream about something completely different. But when James woke up the next morning, he remembered his dinosaur dream, and he remembered that sometimes some of the dinosaurs, even though you wouldn't think so, could be friends. All right, time for us to go to sleep. That was a lot of information about dinosaurs, lots of information about the consciousness, which is such a big word, and it's quite a difficult subject to understand. Time for you to get comfortable and go to sleep. Let your head sink into the pillow. Let your body start to relax and let go of your day. Maybe when you fall to sleep, you can think about Rufus and Leonard having adventures together with their very unusual friendship. Sometimes we make friends with people and create unusual friendships, don't we? Sometimes we make friends at school with people that you would think maybe you weren't going to be friends with, but then it turns out that you like each other very much and you decide to become friends. Friends can come in all different shapes and sizes. We can even have friends that are just pets. Like our bestest friend can be our dog. It can come in many different forms. Make sure that your entire body is relaxed and you're staying still as you possibly can. You're comfortable and warm and your eyes are closed.